What's up, guys? Dusty Shaw, Holistic Fitness and Nutrition, here to share a pretty personal video with you. So, little quick recap for any of my new viewers. Grew up somewhat of a troubled kid, had some form of ADD. You know, a lot of people don't know there's many different types. And I had trouble paying attention in school. Straight A's through elementary school because it only took me a minute to do the work. But then I was bored. So, and because I was alone a lot at home, great loving parents. Same, my parents were loyal until they died a few years ago. So I grew up in a same family household. And relatively good upbringing, other than my parents were never home because all my dad was work. All my dad did was work all day long, and then when he got home, my mom went to work night shift until my dad's salary got up enough to where she didn't have to work. But by that point, she was medically injured by Big Pharma. Dr. Joseph covers this really well. So basically a similar thing that happened to Dr. Jordan Peterson happened to my mother, where she was on diazepams or benzodiazepines, specifically diazepam, for 30 years. And when her doctor left, a new military, extremely incompetent doctor cut her off cold turkey, which we now know you cannot do. There's only two drugs in the world you can die from. And no, fentanyl is not one of them. It's alcohol and benzos. So one you can buy in the store, and one you can get prescribed from a physician or other places. And what I mean by they're the only two you can die from, they're the only two you can die from the withdrawals alone. So it doesn't matter how much fentanyl you do. Yes, if you overdo it with no tolerance, you can overdose and die. But there's only two substances that just the cessation, meaning the cessation or quitting of the drug alone without properly tapering, can lead to death. It can lead to akathisia. Which she experienced both. She died a year later after having seizures every day for a year. And I knew it was a year because she had seizures on her birthday, and on the following year's birthday, she was still having seizures. And so, the amount of pain I watched her endure is unlike anything I've ever experienced anyone endure. Contrary to popular belief, in some regards, sure, a man has tougher bone structure. Well, real men, historically, we don't have many men today, but, you know, a real man is tougher than women in the sense that he could overpower her. But when it comes to pain tolerance, and it makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint, that they have to deal with childbirth, one of the most painful things ever. They have a high pain tolerance. When I tattooed when I was younger, and you can ask any tattooist this, they'll verify, or people who work in the hospital, women actually have a higher pain tolerance, all right? But anyway, where I'm going with this is, I grew up an athlete, wrestled my whole life, and then I started doing amateur boxing as a teenager, got locked up as a juvenile, I went in at 15 and got kicked out of the simple, daycare, like basic juvenile domestic or juvenile corrections, and was shipped upstate to what was known as Bloody Beaumont, not to be confused with the federal. Beaumont is one of the worst federal prisons in the country. Beaumont was the worst, or one of the worst, juvenile prisons or correctional centers, certainly on the East Coast. I would say the entire U.S., with the exception of California Youth Authority. And like California Youth Authority, Beaumont was closed down after I left. Ironically, my dad was there when he was a teenager. So I never made it a single day in high school. And I remember when I was being released, the CO told me that if I didn't change, that I got out right as I was turning 18. He said, you'll be right back in prison. And it wasn't 2 months. And I was being sent off for the adult system for some felony gun charges, for loosely acquainted, not a friend, but someone I knew who robbed a gun store. And because he gave me one of the guns and I was the only one that didn't talk and give it up, I was hit the hardest and sent away. When I was in juvie, Bobby Sopko, who I've mentioned before, is my CO. I'm 15 in there with grown men that are 18 years old, gangbangers from inner city of the toughest cities. And so, you know, anyone that says they weren't nervous is lying. Fortunately, wrestling my whole life and then doing some amateur boxing where no other teenagers had done any of that type of training, I was able to fend for myself. But I tell you, it does something to you to be 15 years old, and when you're laying there in your cell at night trying to go to sleep and you hear young white kids screaming bloody murder because they're being assaulted in the worst way that a boy or man should never be assaulted. And it was repeated again at 18 in the adult system. And that causes trauma. All right? Even if it's not done to you and you're not necessarily worried about it being done to you, just hearing it, you know. I can remember the day that I was shipped out from adult county jail. It was the same night that my graduating class, if I had been to high school, class of 06, was going for their prom night, graduation, and then going to beach week, because it was on the radio right in front of the intake cell. So I could hear that, and I remember sitting in that cell thinking, man, I already missed all my high school years due to being incarcerated, and here I am about to miss my opportunity for beach week and college and all that as I'm going away. And it created a lot of resentment. And so while my friends are having the time of their life, many of them, you know, whether it be in college or going to the, you know, just doing what, you know, teenagers or young adults do, I'm in war, basically. Not to compare to our soldiers, because there is no comparison. You know, the trauma y'all went through was for a noble cause. You went to defend our country, and salutes to every one of you who served our country. All right. But while it's not a total comparison, I've come, I also studied psychology, and my wife is a therapist with her master's, owns several therapy practices, and she's actually going for her doctorates now. So between both of us studying psych and her being a therapist, and then that's just something out of the study on my own, conclusion we've come to, which have also had come to me in plant medicine ceremonies, is that the trauma, because why do some people get it and some not? Because the Vietnam War veterans seen even worse violence and death and what would cause trauma or PTSD than even during the GWOP, all right, Global War on Terror, over the past 20 years. Why did over 90-something% of them come back after having used heroin without experiencing withdrawals or PTSD? Small fraction did, but yet a large fraction of those during the GWOP came back with PTSD, even ones that never seen combat. That's because what I believe is it's not just seeing the most violent things. It's the constant state of being in the fight or flight part of the autonomic nervous system. So your autonomic nervous system, the two main driving factors of how your body functions, you're not either totally in one or the other unless you're in an extreme situation, life or death situation. You'll be stuck in sympathetic, or if you're in the most relaxed place ever, like you're sleeping, then you're in parasympathetic rest and relaxation. All right, but most times throughout the day, we're in a spectrum, oscillating between both, with one being more dominant than the other. Well, when you grow up with childhood trauma like I did, or war veterans, or people, have seen things, incarcerated, when you're constantly living like walking on eggshells, like the child with an abusive parent, and you're always on high alert for what's going to come next, and having to be hyper vigilant, sleeping with one eye open to keep yourself protected, it's staying in that constant state of fight or flight sympathetic nervous system, where you stay in there so long that you just get stuck in it. So that's why something as simple as a horn being honked or a noise being too loud can just really set me off. The seatbelt alarm could be going off for 30 minutes and my wife would never notice. By the third beep, I'm about to lose my mind. All right, that's being stuck in fight or flight. So I bring this up to say that if you haven't watched my past series on LA's Skid Row, my time on the streets of Skid Row, and what I experienced there in LA in county jail, then I highly recommend you go back and watch them so you understand. But I've come to understand and make sense of it, and part of the healing of my PTSD, besides sorting my life out and minimizing anything that's stressful or anything that will keep me feeling like I'm walking on eggshells, which has caused me to isolate a lot. And you can't isolate too much. You have to have some social interaction, and you need more or less depending on whether you're more introverted or extroverted. I've become more introverted over the years, as people tend to get worse as a whole in society. All right, but the thing I really want to touch here is the things that have helped me the most. All right. So one of my favorite podcasts is the Sean Ryan Show. And he said he has PTSD and he battled substance abuse addiction. He was addicted to opiates and benzos, just like Taylor Kavanaugh, the Navy SEAL. Him and Sean Ryan were both Navy SEALs. So I have a lot in common with them. I didn't get to serve my country like they did, but I did experience violence while being incarcerated. So I understand and can relate to them so much. And some of the tips I got from Sean Ryan is that he never goes anywhere with anyone where he can end up stuck. He always has his keys in his own vehicle. That way, if he's in a social situation and his PTSD or anxiety kicks in, he can just go. Because that feeling of being stuck will make it worse when you feel like you can't get out of it. Trauma essentially comes down to any stressful situation that you feel unprepared or unsafe for and unable to get yourself out of. All right. So that's why it's all about mitigating stress in the sense of not being stuck or putting yourself in or around people, places, or things. All right. And those are on the things that we can stay away from. Now, on the things that we can do is most importantly to optimize the autonomic nervous system, either being in sympathetic fight or flight or parasympathetic rest and relaxation, is to start with regulating our circadian rhythm. Our circadian rhythm is our biological clock. I struggled my entire life feeling like a natural night owl, always struggled to get up early, until I learned that a good morning routine truly starts the night before. So I make sure at around 8 p.m. I cut off all the screens, blue lights in the house. I get it really cold, and I get on either the floor with just a thin mattress like a yogi sleeps, like I experienced in the ashram, with either a grounding mat or a cooling mat. All right, the colder it is, the better, and the darker it is, the better. All right. Also, if you can cut Wi-Fi off while you're asleep, great. If you need to use it and it helps you to sleep to listen to something, don't watch the screen, or worst case scenario, wear blue light glasses to block some of the thing. But what I do is I take the, you can also hardwire your internet service instead of having Wi-Fi. All right. Because we're getting hit with it everywhere in the city with the 5G and all that. So what you can do is take your phone and put it far away from you and put it on audio so that you can listen to something as you go to sleep. All right. So, and also no food 2 hours prior to bed. All right. Because rest and relaxation, if you're having to digest food, well, that's a form of stress. That's why fasting is the strongest healing modality we have. All right. So make sure you're eating inside about an 8-hour window, unless you're a bodybuilder or strength athlete, powerlifter somewhere who really needs a period of high calories where it's just too many calories to eat in just 2 to 3 meals in an 8-hour window. That's when you can open it up and eat more often, so you can get the calories in without cramming them in such a short few meals to where you can't get proper absorption and assimilation. So I've been doing the intermittent fasting, eating in an 8-hour window, so that I'm fasting for 16 hours for close to a decade. And when I take breaks, like you see in my most recent pic, for 10 years I've been trying to match or beat my peak physique at 28, 29 years old. When I tore my knee and ended my professional fighting career, I was able, because I always had to cut weight for fights, I was finally able to bulk up, and I got up to 235 pounds, shredded at 9% body fat. And ever since then, I haven't been able to quite match or beat it. I've got to that size, but I'm not quite as lean. Well, I got a little bigger this time, so I got myself up to about 238, 240, which may not sound like much more, but it looked a lot more. And then I cut. And here's the thing: when you cut, your insulin sensitivity becomes more sensitive. You utilize carbs better. So after you've been in a depleted state and you go to introduce those carbs, your body just fills out. So that's why you see in my recent picture, I was able to finally beat it, and I'm proud of it. I've gotten a lot of compliments over those pictures. It's not about vanity. It's about growing my business. The better I can show you all the clients that I've transformed in the time I have, and the success rates. But I also need to exemplify it myself if I'm going to lead those. So I finally did that. It's taken me 10 years. And I did it on TRT, hormone replacement therapy. Whereas 10 years ago, I was taking every drug and steroid under the sun to get there. Because what I've learned is drugs is just like the icing on the cake, those hormones. It's really all about two things. Your two biggest levers is high intensity training, which is low volume, so very few sets, 45 minutes or less in the gym, only 3 to 4 times a week. But you may have 1 or 2 warm-up sets, but that third set and last set, you go to absolute failure or even beyond failure with a partner with assisted reps. All right, but it's really all about the food, especially if you're a hard, thin gainer like me. You've really got to push the food. Now, the reason it's important, one of many reasons, to eat clean food, meaning real food such as meats, whole eggs with the yolks. You need that cholesterol. Cholesterol is a myth. LDL, bad versus good HDL, total myth. They're always changing the numbers. First of all, LDL, what they're calling is bad, doesn't come from dietary cholesterol anyway. It's over 65-70% of it's made within the body. All right, it's the least important or accurate predictor of heart health. So just totally ignore your cholesterol levels. All right. You know, there's much better predictors for heart health. All right, if you're concerned, then go get you an echocardiogram, ECG, AKG, MRI, ultrasound, get the dye in you. I just did that myself. I try to do that once a year, and make sure my heart's good. But and there's things you can take. Citrus bergamot, great for the heart. Hawthorn berries, pretty good for the heart. CoQ10 and ubiquinol is good for the heart. But most importantly, you want to manage blood pressure. All right, especially if you're taking exogenous hormones. So what you want to do there is take 5 milligrams a day of Cialis. That increased blood and oxygen flow just doesn't go to sexual performance. It goes to any muscle, every organ that needs blood and oxygen, and the brain, so it increases the cognitive function. All right. If you need a blood pressure med, I would recommend telmisartan. Just YouTube search Chase Irons telmisartan or Vigorous Steve telmisartan. You can also search their name with Cialis and blood pressure, and you'll see everything I'm talking about, where they show you all the peer-reviewed science and anecdotes. And I've tried it. I have got I'm a little bit downsized now because I helped my wife do a long water fast to help her get leaner. And I cannot count the clients. And I got her off all 10 blood pressure meds. She was on about 8 to 10 blood pressure meds. I got off her all of them except for one, using this protocol I'm telling you. And I'm working with a buddy of mine at work, Doug, who I'll leave his last name anonymous, you know, just to keep full you know, just protection of people's privacy. But yeah, I've got a great history. I've yet to find a single person where I could not reverse their type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol, blood lipids. These are very easy things to fix. Even joints. I've helped people avoid so many surgeries. You're better off going to a veterinarian than a medical doctor. Think of it like this. Why is it that when animals tear joints or have heart issues or whatever, they never get surgeries? Well, because they don't have insurance, so they can't charge them all this money and make money off it. So they actually have to treat them properly. You can go right in Tractor Supply and get the 3 joint compounds you need: glucosamine, chondroitin, and MSM. If you need something to help reduce inflammation, you can take turmeric. Black pepper will help the absorption. Core Flex is a good joint complex that has all of it. I even give it to my dog. I give him a bone broth, her a bone broth that has the glucosamine, chondroitin, MSM, and turmeric, and you can tell the difference in her joint and mobility. All right, but I'm a little bit all over here with different things, but I just wanted to touch on some basic health things and things I've learned. But the biggest thing is not what you do, like these things, like going to bed early, waking up early. The best thing you can do is start your day with a win. When you wake up, that decision is the most important, because when that snooze button goes off, you can either answer the bitch in your voice that says, nope, just hit snooze and lay here a little longer. You've already set the tone and made it a habitual case for you to fail and break all throughout the day. Or you can listen to the Ubermensch, as Nietzsche called it, the ultimate man, and not hit the snooze and pop right up and immediately go get you some sunlight. Because when you go get that sunlight, even if it's just 5-10 minutes, that's going to keep the cortisol spike from going too big. Just like, very important, you do not touch any caffeine. The only thing you should be drinking in the morning is a high quality filtered water, whether you filter your own water and then add a little bit of Celtic or Baja Gold sea salt, pink Himalayan if that's all you get at the store, because it contains 80 to 100 trace minerals. So it remineralizes your body plus all the electrolytes you need. All right, so you drink water in the morning, not caffeine. All right, caffeine is a vasoconstrictor, which restricts blood flow and oxygen flow, which defeats the purpose. Remember, we're taking Cialis to increase blood flow and oxygen. So why take caffeine. Now, if you're one of the rare people that has the ADD type where caffeine helps with linear focus, then once you've hydrated with water and you've waited a minimum of 1 to 2 hours and wait for the cortisol spike to pass so that you don't exasperate it, then you can have you a cup. All right, I just recommend no more than 60 to 120, 150 milligrams of caffeine, and make sure you add L-theanine to it. If you ever notice green tea doesn't give you the anxiety jitters like coffee does, that's because it has L-theanine in with it. All right, now from there, set you up a morning routine, and it has to be the same thing every day so that we habitualize it. So you go get the sunlight, even if it's just 5 minutes. Do a little bit of stretching routine under the sunlight. Hydrate with the water and with the sea salt to get all your electrolytes and minerals. And one bonus is to add hydrogen water tablets. Tons of benefits on this. Look up Gary Brecka. All right. Everything I'm telling you, a lot of this I also got confirmed through Gary Brecka, who saved Dana White's life, who had 10 years to live and was on roughly 10 blood pressure meds himself, and statins. Statins are terrible for your heart. Cholesterol meds, I mean, all kind of things. And just through intermittent fasting, like I'm telling you, eating inside an 8-hour window, so you're fasting 16 hours, and then getting the sunlight, and then cold showers, and either sauna or red light therapy. All right. We have to expose yourself to cold and heat temperatures. Now, from there, we really need to focus on 10,000 steps a day. You can get you a step tracker. The body has to move. Movement is medicine, and food is medicine. As Hippocrates, the first and greatest doctor of all time, stated, who also stated all disease begins in the gut, which is why SSRIs don't work in drugs, most drugs. All right, they're temporary fixes, and you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and the interest is heavy. I've talked about this in many videos. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to kind of do an over quick of just some holistic lifestyle practices you can implement. And I am going to give you a discount through the rest of this weekend. I normally charge $250 a month to write up fully customized workout plans, meal plans, and lifestyle plans. I'm going to drop that in half plus 50. So only $100 for the plan. You check in with me weekly. And just look at my client transformations on my social media to see the benefits. All right. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share the video, and subscribe if you haven't already to help to promote the algorithm. Message me now on social media or my email. All my contacts are in the description below the video, and comment any video topic discussions you'd like me to discuss, and I will, whichever one is commented the most or gets the most likes, I will do my next video on, and I will shout out your name and send you something for free. So thank you guys very much. Have a great weekend. Hope to work with some of y'all.